Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Regroup Show. In today's show, I'm going to be talking about how to qualify international tenants. Okay, the process is slightly different from a regular United States tenant. Okay, if you live in places that border, let's say Canada, or that border Mexico, you're going to eventually get tenants from those areas. And if you live in a big port city that attracts tenants from all over the world, you got to realize that they're not going to have the same setup, if you will, as those who are here in the United States. So let's first start with credit checks. Okay. Many countries don't have TransUnion or Experian. All right. So they may have, for example, single key, or they might have something called Nova Credit, which looks at the histories of how this person has managed their money particularly when it comes to credit cards. Okay. The next thing is, yes, you want to have and you want to see their bank statements, preferably the last 3 to 6 months, to make sure they have enough to cover whatever it is that you're charging. The next thing is you want to make sure they have proof of income, an employment letter, pay stubs, or a tax return. You want to see those things. You want to check with previous landlords to see what the rental payment history is. Now, if they're fresh off the boat, if you will, they might not have that from the previous landlord. And they may also be from a country where you don't speak the same language. There are translators out there, ladies and gentlemen, that you can hire that can translate that information for you. Okay? Now, when it comes to employment verification, again, on the letter there probably is contact information, but I like to Google the company and call the main line and then have myself transferred to where that particular job is that they indicated, because there are people who do lie about where they work, who they work for, how long they work, and how much money they're making on that job. So that's why I do what I do. And I ask those questions. Okay? Now, another thing you need to know too is that based on the Fair Housing Act, it's not good to reject applicants based on their national origin. Okay? It's not good to do that. You're really walking a tightrope. I know that those of us who live in 1 to 4 family units, the law is a little slax in that area in certain states, but typically no. Typically proceed with caution, and I would even say get a lawyer. Okay. There are state laws that avoid requiring proof of legal residency, such as states like California. So that's another reason why I say get a lawyer, so that this way you know what's acceptable in your state and what is not acceptable in your state. Now, let's talk about those who come, quote unquote, fresh off the boat. Okay. What they do a lot of times, they will either get a guarantor or a sponsor. Okay. And they do that because, as mentioned, the person applying, who is a foreigner, does not have any U.S. credit history, right? And because they don't have any U.S. credit history, a lot of times a guarantor is needed. There might also even be some income shortfalls. If the tenant's income is below 3 times the monthly rent, then the sponsor or guarantor will be needed in order to step in. Now, when a guarantor or a sponsor steps in, you still have to qualify them. You have to go over their income and their assets. You have to make sure that they are able to afford both their rent and the rent that you are charging these international tenants. Okay? You got to make sure that the income is above whatever it is that you're charging for rent. Okay? You got to look at the credit score of the sponsor. And some places, many people, it says U.S. guarantors need 750 plus for a credit score. Okay. If it's less, then you can't deal with them. Next, there are some landlords that require that either the sponsor or the guarantor resides in the U.S. They don't want a guarantor or sponsor that lives in another country. That's not going to make it. And then some of them require not only are they U.S. citizens living in the U.S., some might even say, hey, I want them living in the same state, or I want them living in the same city. Because see, if the other people defaults and you have to take them to court to collect your money, you want to be able to do it easily. And it's easily done when it's done in the same state and city. Okay. Now, you do have third-party guarantor services, which act as co-signers. They have an exception to the rule. Again, I would encourage you to speak with an attorney in order to determine which route is the best route. Because, like I said, and I've been saying, each state is different. All right. Now, when it comes to documentation, note this, that if the person does not speak English, if their financial records are not in English, you do have to use a certified translator. All right. You gotta do that. That's a must. And as far as fraud prevention is concerned, you gotta verify people's ID, either passport, visa, or you can even cross-check their company's employment claims. Another thing that I do, because there are a lot of tenants I find that are scared to share this information, what you can ask them to do is for them to give you their job ID. And normally their job ID has a picture and their name underneath. If they're still uncomfortable and they don't give it to you, I say move forward. On to the next one. All right. So basically, guys, that is it. That is all I have for you. If you have any questions, please drop them down and I will do my best to answer them. But until next time, have a good night. Bye.